No one saw the silence arrive because it did not crash into their marriage like a storm. It slipped in quietly, hiding inside busy schedules and tired evenings. Arav and Mira had been married for only a few months when the change began, but neither of them named it. In the beginning, their small apartment felt alive. They would talk late into the night about dreams they barely understood yet. Arav wanted to build something meaningful in his career. Mira wanted a home that felt warm and safe. They used to sit on the floor with takeaway boxes, laughing about how bad Arav was at folding laundry. She would tease him for putting too much salt in everything he cooked. He would pull her close and promise to improve. Back then, promises felt easy, but life moved fast. Arav's office demanded longer hours. New projects meant new pressure. He told himself this was temporary. He told Mira, too. Just a few months, he said, kissing her forehead while checking his watch. Mira believed him. She always believed him. She would wait by the window every evening, watching headlights pass, hoping one of them would stop in front of their building. When he finally came home, he looked tired but proud. She would smile and take his bag. "How is your day?" she would ask. At first, he answered in detail. He talked about meetings, about people he didn't like, about ideas he was excited about. She listened closely, asking questions, trying to understand his world. Slowly, his answers became shorter. It was fine, same as usual, just work. He would loosen his tie, sit on the couch, and scroll through his phone. Mira would stand near him, still holding 2 cups of tea, waiting for more words. None came. She began to talk. About her day instead. She spoke about the neighbor who had a new baby, about the recipe she tried, about a book she was reading. Arv nodded without really listening. Sometimes he smiled at something on his screen, and she would pause, wondering if he had heard anything she said. At night, they lay side by side. In the dark, Mira would whisper, "Are you stressed?" Arv would sigh and say, "It's normal. Don't worry." She wanted to say that she did worry, not about his job, but about the space growing between them. Yet the words felt heavy. She did not want to sound demanding. She did not want to add to his stress. So she stayed quiet. Arav thought her silence meant understanding. He did not realize it was the start of distance. Weekends used to belong to them. They would wake up late, cook breakfast together, and plan small outings. After the first year, weekends turned into recovery days. Arav slept longer. When he woke up, he opened his laptop. "Just a little work," he would say. Mira would sit across from him, watching sunlight fill the room. She would suggest going out for coffee. He would say, "Maybe later." Later rarely came. She started going alone. She would dress nicely, hoping he might notice and ask where she was going. Days, he did not. One evening, Mira prepared his favorite meal. She decorated the table with small candles, trying to bring back a feeling she could not fully describe. When Arav walked in, he looked surprised but distracted. "What's the occasion?" he asked, placing his phone beside his plate. "Nothing," she said with a soft smile. "I just wanted us to sit together." They began eating. She asked about his goals, about where he saw them in 5 years. He answered quickly, speaking about promotions and savings. She waited for him to mention children, travel, shared dreams. He did not. When she gently said, "And what about us?" he looked confused. "We're fine," he replied. "Why wouldn't we be?" She forced a smile and changed the topic. That night, she cried quietly in the bathroom, letting the water run so he would not hear her. Arav noticed her red eyes, but assumed she was tired. He kissed her cheek and said she should sleep earlier. He truly believed nothing was wrong. The second year of their marriage felt heavier. Mira stopped asking about his day because she already knew the answer. Arav stopped noticing her new dresses or the way she styled her hair differently. She cut it shorter once, waiting for a reaction. He came home late and said nothing. The next morning, she asked, "Do you see anything different?" He looked at her carefully and shook his head. New earrings. He guessed. She laughed softly and said, "It's fine." But inside something closed. They still shared the same bed, the same table, the same walls. But they no longer shared thoughts. When relatives called, they sounded like a happy couple. They attended family gatherings and smiled for photos. No one saw the truth in the quiet car rides home. No one heard the silence filling the spaces where laughter used to live. One night, the power went out during a storm. The apartment went dark and rain hit the windows hard. Mira lit a candle and sat near Araf. For a moment, it felt like the early days again. The world outside disappeared. She looked at him and said softly, "Do you remember how we used to talk about everything?" He smiled faintly. Of course. She waited for him to say more, to ask why she brought it up. Instead, he added, "Things change. That's life." She stared at the candle flame, feeling the truth settle in her chest. Things had changed, but only one of them seemed to accept it. As months passed, Mira began writing in a small notebook. She wrote things she wished she could tell him. She wrote about missing his laughter. She wrote about feeling invisible. She wrote about wanting to hold his hand without feeling like she was interrupting something more important. She never showed him the notebook. It felt safer to pour her heart onto paper than risk hearing him say she was overthinking Arav. On the other hand, believed he was doing everything right. He paid the bills on time. He planned for their future. He avoided arguments because he hated conflict. In his mind, no fights meant peace. He did not understand that peace without connection feels empty. Sometimes he noticed Mira was quieter than before, but he assumed she was adjusting to adulthood. He told himself that love does not need constant talking. Love is steady, he believed, stable, silent. One evening, Mira stood by the balcony watching the city lights flicker. Arav was inside, typing on his laptop. She turned and looked at him for a long moment. She tried to remember the last deep conversation they had. She could not. Her chest felt tight. She walked inside and sat across from him. "Arav?" she said gently. He did not look up. She swallowed her fear. "Do you ever feel like we're drifting?" He paused, finally meeting her eyes. "Drifting? No. Why would you think that?" She searched his face for concern. There was none, only confusion. "I don't know," she replied quickly. "Maybe. It's just me." He nodded and returned to his screen. "Don't overthink," he said. "We're good." That sentence stayed with her. "We're good." It sounded final, like a door-closing dot from that day. Mira stopped trying to explain her feelings. She moved through the apartment like a guest. She filled her days with small routines, morning walks, reading, helping her sister with online classes. She smiled when Arav entered the room but did not expect anything anymore. Expectations had become too painful. Arav noticed the change but misread it. He thought she had matured, become calmer. He appreciated the lack of complaints, even told a colleague once, "Marriage is easy if both people are understanding." He did not see that understanding had turned into quiet surrender. Their second anniversary came and went without celebration. Arav forgot the date until he saw a social media reminder. He rushed home with flowers, feeling guilty but hopeful. Mira thanked him politely. They cut a small cake in silence. He promised they would plan something big next year. She nodded. Knowing promises without presents meant nothing. That night, as they lay in bed, there was a space between them that felt wider than ever. Mira stared at the ceiling, listening to his steady breathing. She realized she no longer felt angry. Anger requires hope. What she felt now was emptiness. She turned to her side, facing away from him, and let a single tear fall onto her pillow. Arav remained unaware of the storm building inside her heart. He believed silence meant safety. He did not understand that silence, left untouched, slowly turns love into memory. And while he worked hard to secure their future, their present was slipping. quietly through his fingers, one unspoken word at a time. Arav walked down the crowded streets, his mind a storm of regret and hope, replayed like a painful loop. He had tried to reach her, called her, texted her, and even reached out through her sister, but she kept her distance. Her words, "I need time," echoed constantly in his mind. At first he thought he could handle the waiting, but the days stretched like shadows, heavy and endless. And in that emptiness, he began to understand the depth of what he had lost. Then, one afternoon, he saw her. She was in the small bookstore they used to visit together, the one tucked away behind a quiet street, lined with books that smelled of paper and memories. She was standing by the travel section, flipping through a book about mountains. Her hair, she looked different, yet the same, stronger, calmer, yet with a softness that made his chest tighten. Walking away, pretending he hadn't seen her. But something stronger than fear pulled him forward step by step. There was no anger in them, no reproach, only distance. The kind that speaks louder than words, the kind that carries both love and disappointment. "Arv," she replied, her voice calm, controlled, yet there was a flicker of something unspoken in her eyes. He noticed it immediately, a trace of the warmth he remembered, but layered beneath it caution, pain, and resilience. He took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind inside him. I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I didn't understand. I thought silence meant peace. I thought providing for us was enough. I didn't see what I was losing, Mira. I didn't notice the distance growing. I didn't notice you slipping away." He paused, searching her face for a sign, any sign, that she still cared. That there was a chance to fix the damage he had caused. She didn't smile, she didn't frown. She simply listened, letting his words hang in the air. "You didn't lose me in one day," she said finally, her voice steady but soft. "You lost me in small moments. Every time I tried to reach you, every time I waited for you to notice me, you were somewhere else. Every time I spoke and you didn't hear me, I moved a little farther from you." Ara felt his chest tighten. Her words were not accusations, they were statements of fact, clear and unshakable. He realized he could no longer hide behind excuses or good intentions. The truth was in front of him. He had ignored her, and now he had to live with the consequences. "I was drowning too," he admitted, the words coming out in a rush. "But I didn't know how to say it. I thought being strong meant being quiet. I thought if I kept working, kept providing, kept everything smooth, love would survive. But I see now, doesn't work like that. Silence doesn't protect love. Silence kills it." Her eyes softened for a moment as if she recognized the honesty in him. But she still held her distance. "Strength is sharing the weight," she said quietly. "You thought you were protecting us by staying quiet, but you were protecting yourself. And I respect that you're realizing it now, but it's late. Not everything can be undone with apologies." Her words were gentle but firm, a reminder that love requires action as much as feeling. Arev's heart ached. He had imagined this moment countless times, her walking toward him. Forgiveness in her eyes, but reality was more complicated, more fragile. He reached out instinctively, as if to touch her hand, but hesitated, unsure if he was allowed. "I miss you," he whispered, almost against his will. It felt inadequate, weak against the weight of months of neglect, yet it was the truth. He had missed her laugh, her questions, her warmth. The way she filled the apartment with life. She looked down at the book in her hands, a shield and a comfort all at once. "I missed you too," she admitted softly, almost reluctantly. "For a long time, longer than you know. But missing someone doesn't always mean they will come back. Sometimes it just means you feel the absence clearly." Her honesty cut through him. It was not rejection, not fully, but it was a boundary. A careful line she had drawn to protect herself. Arav swallowed hard, realizing that this was the first time he truly saw her strength. She had not left him out of anger, nor had she stayed out of spite. He had left because she loved herself enough to step away from a situation that was silently hurting her every day. And now, standing here, he understood that her love for herself had to come first before any hope of reconciliation. 4. A moment the bookstore seemed to shrink around them, the noise of the street fading. He wanted to speak, to explain, to promise, but words felt clumsy, incapable of bridging the gap. He realized that his apologies were not enough. Actions mattered. He needed to show her, not just tell her, that he had changed, that he had learned, that he would not allow silence to destroy them again. "I've changed," he said finally, his voice firmer now, though still gentle. "I'm learning to speak, to notice, to be present. I can't undo the past, but I can promise the future will be different. I'll prove it to you, not just in words, but in everything I do. I don't want to lose you again." She nodded slowly, her gaze softening, but she did not step closer. "I hope you learn that before it's too late again," she said, closing the book with a deliberate motion. "I can't promise I'll come back. I need to know you understand what silence did to us. I need to know you won't make me wait like this again." He felt a mix of fear and hope. Fear that she might never return, and hope that he had a chance to rebuild what he had destroyed. He realized that love, real love, required more than good intentions. It demanded attention, care, and honesty every day. He had assumed stability was enough, but now he knew the truth. Stability without presence is emptiness. Arav watched her walk away from the shelf. Each step a reminder of the distance he had created, yet also a symbol of the fragile possibility that remained. He wanted to reach for her, to stop her, but he understood that this moment was hers, not his. She had the power to choose, and he had to respect it. He could not force forgiveness, only show his commitment to change. As she left the bookstore, the air between them felt charged with unspoken emotion. It was tender, painful, and real. He stayed where he was, watching her disappear into the sunlight, feeling the ache of regret and the glimmer of hope mingling together. He realized he had a long way to go, not just to win her back, but to become someone worthy of being beside her. The city moved on around him, people bustling, cars honking, the sounds of life continuing as if nothing had happened. But for Arav, time had slowed. Every step she took away from him was a lesson in love, loss, and the importance of noticing what truly matters. He understood now that love dies not from storms or mistakes, but from silence. It is in the small neglects, the unspoken words, the ignored feelings that hearts drift apart. And as he stood there, lone yet determined, he made a silent vow. He would never let silence destroy what mattered again. He would speak, listen, and show love every day. Whether she returned or not, he would carry this lesson with him. Knowing that regret is heavy, but change is possible. For the first time since she had left, he felt clarity. Love is fragile, yes, but it is also resilient if nurtured. He had been given a warning, a chance to correct the mistakes of 2 years lost in quiet. And now, with her memory present in every heartbeat, he began the journey to rebuild himself, hoping that one day, perhaps, she might choose to walk back into his life, and this time they would speak, laugh, and connect as they once had. He left the bookstore slowly, breathing in the air with a mix of hope and sorrow. The world was the same, yet nothing felt the same. Every step forward felt heavy with responsibility, heavy with love. Heavy with the knowledge that silence can be deadly, but that awareness, now in his heart, might also save what he had almost lost forever. And so Arav walked on, carrying the weight of regret, the spark of hope, and the promise that he would never allow silence to define a love again.